Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so I've essentially found a new subject which is very similar to what I've been talking about, and it absolutely applies to this channel and everything we've done here. In fact, a lot of you have dealt with avoidance without even realizing you've dealt with avoidance. So if you haven't learned about avoidance, you might want to learn about what avoidant is, what they do. Because as I've learned about them, I've looked back in my past and like, man, one of my girlfriends was absolutely an avoidant, and this friend and this person, and it causes a real big problem if you don't know how to deal with it, or if you just don't understand it. So one thing I noticed, I mentioned in the last video, is we are our world is backwards, and I have a feeling that the internet, social media is really making life ass backwards. And I mean just like, what? So essentially all the videos that I've found for the last 4 to 6 months on avoidance is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's telling us, the healthy people, how to deal with a toxic person on their level, on their terms, literally. Now, understanding avoidance, I think, is important. But here's the thing: the only videos that, and I'm telling you, I've easily listened to over 100 videos on avoidance. There isn't a single video that mentions to avoidance, hey, here's what you need to learn. This is what you need to do to heal. This is what you need to do to interact with the population, with normal human beings, with people that have healthy behaviors, healthy strategies, etc. Because the one thing about avoidance is they have been turned against themselves, and that really is the problem. So we're told now, here's how you need to change in order to interact in this crazy making dynamic of an avoidant. It's a crazy world. So here's the thing is, I haven't found a single video yet addressing avoidance, saying, hey, here's some therapeutic lessons or information for you. Here's how you can heal. Here's what you need to do. And I'm just finding it absolutely bizarre. And a lot of these people that are doing these avoidant videos are avoidants themselves. So they're like, hey, here's how you need to deal with me and my shit. And I'm kind of like, no, I don't need to deal with your shit. And I guess what I'm trying to say, it's a reciprocating toxic cycle. It's like telling empaths or anyone, now here's how you deal with a narcissist. Now here's how you make a narcissist happy. Just put up with the abuse and understand they're going to abuse you and they're going to hurt you. And what they're going to do is these really mean things, and they're going to turn people against you. Just be okay with it and expect it. And no, I'm not going to be okay with it, and I'm not going to act like it's okay to interact with this toxic behavior. I'm not going to do it. They need help. So this channel, or at least this series of videos, and here's just one, I'm going to talk about right now, is going to be about, hey, avoidance, you might want to learn this. In fact, what I'm going to teach you guys, a lot of you need to learn this. This is a really cool thing that I learned, I think I was around 24, 25 years old. Alright, so before I get to that, let me start this out this way. So essentially, and this is going to be a real short version, shortcut, avoidants were punished, neglected, treated in such a way to where they were turned against their natural, normal, healthy, instinctual behaviors, such as love, bonding with other human beings, interacting with human beings, having reciprocal, beneficial relationships with other human beings. They're told, no, that's wrong. Be independent. Be strong. Don't open up. Opening is emotionally is wrong, and avoid people. It's just, my point is this. Avoidants were taught strategies, not only taught, but were convinced, like, hey, that natural thing that you do is so wrong, that is horrible. Do this thing over here that's wrong, that's toxic, and therefore it's okay. They were taught toxic strategies and toxic behaviors and toxic beliefs, and taught toxic rules, which turned themselves against their natural nature. The music will go down now. Okay, so here's the deal. We as humans go through natural stages, and these are healthy stages, and you're supposed to go through them in order to live a healthy life, to live a meaningful life, an abundant life.
Cannot wait for it to warm up.
Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. Have you guys read the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey? So it's I think it's pronounced Stephen, yeah, but it's Stephen R. Covey. This is a great book. If you haven't read it, you have to read it. I'm going to give you the essential pieces of this book that applies to pretty much everyone. So one thing about avoidance is they have an overly emphasis since young childhood of being independent, of not relying on other people. Well, that's just not reality. Now, being independent is a part of growth. It is a good part. It is a healthy part. But here's now for avoidance. I'm actually making these videos. Okay, so I didn't say this part. I decided to make videos to help avoidance to grow, to learn, and to heal, because for some reason no one's putting this out there, and I think it's kind of odd. But I think it's because the people making the videos are not aware that there are healing modalities that can help you, especially avoidance. You absolutely can be healed and can be helped. Alright, this short video is going to show you something that is going to blow your mind, because avoidants have such a huge focus on being independent. So if they start to open up emotionally to someone, oh, they got to pull away. It's got to be independent. Don't rely on someone for love. If someone starts to help them, they pull away. Well, can't let people help you because that would not be independent. Now, there's a misunderstanding that you're having that I had before I read this book, before I learned this from Tony Robbins and other coaches and trainers in seminars. In fact, the first time I heard it was in one of my psychology classes. I don't remember. I think it was applied psychology, but one of my classes in college. And at the time, I really didn't get it. I didn't understand. This is why I recommend that you read the book. But I'm going to give you the gist of it, where this alone might just change your life. So there are 3 natural, normal, healthy phases or stages that human beings go through. It's normal. It's a good thing. And if you go through these phases effectively, you're going to function very well in society. You're going to be able to make money, you're going to be able to interact with other people, you're going to be able to function, you're going to be able to thrive and have healthy relationships, etc., etc. But if you don't, you're going to struggle, and it's going to be painful. Now, here's the deal. A lot of times when people become therapists, they do it because they had issues themselves. Now, I'm just realizing as I'm making this video, there's something that a therapist was teaching me years ago that was literally teaching me to go backwards and go downwards, because that was an issue that they still had. Like, no, this is the way it is. It's exactly the way avoidants are. They really believe this one thing. Now, what I'm going to teach you is going to become so obvious, you're going to be like, wow, that is like it's just clear as day. Alright, here it is. There are 3 phases, okay? Again, I'm not going to go, the book is too big to discuss in detail to get every detail. So there are 3 phases. There is when you're born, you are dependent, okay? But then as you get older, you kind of begin at around 6 or 7, but that's not really where you begin. The next phase is independence, okay? Which is where avoidants are at, okay? But there's kind of a backwards thing done here, which I'm going to get to in a second. So independence is generally when you're going around 11, 12, teenage years, 13, your hormonal phase, when the testosterone and estrogen and all that start to kick in, is you become rebellious. That's why, teenage kids and boys are just below the teenage years start to rebel. No, and they start to get in fights or disagree with teachers or don't follow the rules. It's because they're trying to find their independence. They're trying to develop their independence. This is why essentially high school is such a chaotic kind of experience, because Here you are going through this natural, normal human phase, and yet you're being forced into classrooms every day at 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 or 3 or whatever. You're taught to follow rules, to conform, to do as you're told, at the very same time when you're raging into this hormonal phase of independence, independence, independence. Now, one of the things that she's actually an energy healer, had me do is when I went through a really bad breakup, she said, Michael, you need to spend time alone. So here's the rule. If you're in a relationship, when you break up, whether it's marriage or long-term committed relationship, you need to spend half the time alone. So I was in a relationship for 8 years, and she's like, yeah, you need to spend 4 years alone. I was like, there's no way, because I had always been in a relationship. It wasn't, like, I think maybe it was a year and a half or so before I got into my next relationship between my high school girlfriend and that. But I was looking, dating, trying to find someone where she's like, no, that's not healthy, Michael. You need to completely cut it off. And I was like, why? Because it'll teach you to be comfortable with being with yourself. And at the same time, during this phase, I had a friend who would go to movies alone. I'm like, dude, why do you do that? Because I thought it was so weird. He's like, well, what's wrong with that? He goes, you know what, Michael, you need to get comfortable just doing things by yourself. You can't just always rely on people. Because you know what I would do? He goes, you should go to movies alone for 2 years. Don't go with anyone. Just do it by yourself. I'm like, oh, okay. I remember the first time I did it, I felt so uncomfortable, like everyone's looking at me. But I kept doing it. Now, this was the same phase. So the energy healer convinced me, because I was like, there's no way I can, 4 years without being in a relationship or at least dating. So she meant like no dating, no coffee dates, no talking, nothing, not even at home. And so she goes, okay, fine, then just do it for 3 years. I'm like, there's no way. She goes, okay, 2 years. I'm like, no, I go, there's just no way I could do that. And then she goes, all right, I tell you, I'll make you a deal. You do it for 1 year, and then you can date again. I was like, well, okay. So what ended up happening was I did do it for a year, and I got so comfortable going out to dinner by myself, going to the movies, going to the grocery store. It just was comfortable. It was just felt normal. And I kind of carried on. I was kind of really comfortable with my life. I felt really good because nobody was yelling at me. I wasn't with a narcissist playing mind games. That was really the key to me being able to get out of my last narcissist friendship. Was I was used to being alone, because this 1 year turned into 5 years, because I would date someone like, oh, this is horrible, and then another one, this is horrible. And the funny thing is, I got up from the table, we were out to dinner, and I walked away because this person was so rude. Well, years ago, I would have never done that. I would have just put up with the abuse. So at this phase in my life, I was walking away from people, and here's the really weird thing. It felt really good. Something inside. I remember driving down the road away from this restaurant. God, I feel really good. Like, it was the oddest thing in the world, because I always thought if I walked away from someone, I'd feel so bad, but I didn't. So then when I ran at that narcissist 5-6 years ago, when I was at a point like, dude, I'm not doing this anymore, because I tried to say, hey, what's going on for months? Like, why are you doing this? What's going on? And I was like, man, I'm done. I'm not doing it. And it shocked the hell out of them. Like, wait, people don't normally do that. Well, that's because most people have never spent time alone. Whereas the avoidant, they tend to be stuck in this, okay, I need 2 months off, I need 6 months. They're constantly alone. They're constantly avoidant. They're constantly independent. Well, this is not actually a healthy thing. And here's what I mean. Now, let's kind of back up a little bit. So when you're first born, you are completely 100% dependent. You need your parents to feed you. You need to, suckle your mother's breast for food. They need to change you. They need to carry you. Everything. Like 100% of your needs have to be met by another human being. Everything from protection to food to shelter, everything to stay warm. So when you're a child, birth 0 days, 0 years, to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, 5, maybe even 6, you're essentially almost completely dependent through that whole phase. Okay, you kind of see, you do begin to kind of, you can brush your teeth. Now you can go to the bathroom by yourself. So you're slowly finding your independence. Okay, but it takes a long, long time, because of modern society and technology and the way jobs now are technical. You have to get a greater education to be able to function, to make money in the world. Whereas before, a lot of people, you hear this, the Depression era, or even before that, back in the UK or Europe, you had these children that were abandoned. So at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old, like, they would polish shoes, or they'd deliver newspapers, and they would make money and they'd take care of themselves. So you didn't really need an education. But now you're not going to make enough money to put a roof over your head if you don't have some kind of training or education. So now your dependence is stretched out a little bit longer. So instead of it being, till it used to be, if you had an 8th grade education, that was a really good thing, like good job, like you can get a great job, etc. Now even a high school degree, it's nothing. Basically a bachelor's degree now is equivalent to a high school degree back in the 1980s. Okay, so now you can function in society. So the first phase is dependence. The second phase is independence. Like I said earlier, I've already gone over it, where you start to find yourself. You start to go, well, what do I believe? What are my values? What do I think? Now this begins to conflict with, see, when you're young, when you're first born, you imprint on your parents, just like a baby duck imprints on the first thing they see when the eggshell cracks open. And if it's you as a human, they'll follow you around to imprint on you. But normally it's their mama duck or daddy duck, and they follow them around and they copy them. Okay, now I've talked about this on narcissist abuse videos in the past, where narcissists are stuck in the imprinting phase. They've never gotten out of it. So they're constantly copying people and recording them, just like an infant. Infants just audio and video record blindly without any judgment. Just they copy. It's literally like taking video and audio recordings, and then that's just what they do. So you take on your parents' and family's values and beliefs and their strategies, their unconscious strategies, their emotions, their everything, okay? Their rules even. But then when you start getting into your high school, teenage years, you start to think for yourself, and now you begin to conflict with those. So now the battle begins. Well, who am I versus who are my parents and the way they raised me? So this becomes a challenge, a battle. And you can argue, like your parents, like, that's not the way I raised you. And you're like, well, yeah, you're right. That's the point. I'm becoming my own person now. This is the independent phase. Now, in the modern world, most people do not get out of this phase at least until they're 28 years old. And I think it's in the book. I haven't read this book in many, many years. I've got it right here. I don't remember what age they say you come out. I don't know if it was 28 or 32, but I think they may have said it was supposed to be around 26 to 28 where you start to become your own human being, which would be great. But I don't think most people do that. In fact, I don't think I did until I don't even think I began to come out of it until I was 28 years old, and even after, okay? So the good news is I've read this book. I went to some seminars that spoke about this special thing we talked about in psychology class. So I had enough of it in my brain to where I was like, wow. So here's the third phase, and this is this is the point of the video. And if you're an avoidant, I think this is going to rock your world. This is going to help you to do self-healing to a higher functioning level, to where you're going to be able to interact with people on a very good level, on a higher level, where you get more out of life, where you get what you truly want out of life. Without this lesson, you are going to be stuck and struggle in the independent stage. Now, you're stuck in an unhealthy independent stage because you never truly went through the dependent stage. So just to be clear, this is not just for avoidance. This is for empaths. This is for anyone. I think the only people this won't benefit, now I hate to even say this, but is narcissists, because I don't think their brain can function on this level. I think there's a disconnect neurologically in their brain. So let's move on. So I don't care if you've been following my channel, this is going to rock your world. So the third level is interdependence. Okay, now what is interdependence, or some people call it intradependence? So interdependence is when people begin to function together and work together. So if you've dealt with a narcissist, they're always trying to bring you down. That is not interdependence. That is their codependency trying to control you. So people who are trying to control you are codependent. They are desperate. They are needy. These are not healthy people that can function within a group of people. And that really is the key. So if you've struggled in life financially and emotionally and relationship wise, it's because you're not at the interdependent level where people are depending on each other. Because look, I remember, I think it was in high school, like they were talking about how, look, like you can't do everything by yourself. Like someone's got to mine the oil, someone's got to mine the minerals, somebody's got to build the rubber tires for the tractor, someone's got to build the metal to build the tractor, someone's got to make the screws, somebody's got to make the screwdriver to put the tractor together, somebody's got to build the hammer to make the house, someone's got to cut the wood. I mean, you can't do all of those things. Someone's got to do the farm. They got to build the farmhouse, the barn. They've got to do. I mean, I could go on and on. And I remember taking this class and went on and on about ores and minerals and tires and who does this and how they do it. It's like you can't do all of it. It's just not possible. Somebody has to dig the oil well. Somebody has to make the pumps and the pipes to put the oil on the ship. Somebody has to build the ship. Somebody has to do this for the ship. Somebody has to drive the ship. Someone's got to drive the ship across the ocean to your country to deliver the oil and on. I mean, it's just, we as humans do not have a choice. We are interdependent human beings. We are interdependent species. This is normal, this is natural, this is healthy, and this is a higher level of functioning. This is when you do something that benefits someone else and they do something to benefit you. Well, okay, if you have, I know a lot of you have, if you had the thought, oh yeah, but they're not going to be fair, see, that means you're not at a healthy level, and you're not interacting with other people who are on a healthy level. A healthy level is when people are functioning together and everyone is helping everyone to rise up. That is a very healthy, normal thing. If you do not open up to interdependence, you'll never get there. So if when I first brought this subject up, you thought, oh, that's not real, that's because you're not at that level. And you're used to dealing with everyone backstabbing, bringing each other down, like giving you a little bit when you give them a lot, and playing games on that level. That's not a healthy level. Those are toxic people. So at birth, we were designed to bond with each other, to love each other, to interact with each other. And a huge part of life is learning how to interact with other people. This is one of probably the core essence of being a human being. And it takes work. It takes time. I mean, from pretty much almost birth, maybe not birth, but by the time you're 9 months old or 12 months old and you start walking around, even if you're stumbling, that's the point. You need to work with people. You need to learn how to develop, to get along with people. And it does take work. It does take time. It takes effort. It takes practice. As a child, I remember parents and coaches and teachers saying, hey, sports are very important. They're vital for children to learn to interact with other people, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, whatever, man. Because I was a kid, I didn't get it. As I look back, and it was after reading this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Now, it may have been years after that, 4 or 5, maybe even 8 years later. I was looking back at my relationships going, wow, I get it now. See, when you play sports with people, you are going at a higher level, fast. Take baseball. You have to learn what to do when in certain situations, and the other position players have to know, if the ball's hit over there, you got 2 outs and someone's on second, this is what you're supposed to do. If it's hit over here, you got to stop it, you got to throw it to this base. There's a huge interaction factor going on. Now, the same thing with high school football. I remember a coach saying, hey, so he had us come over to his house, and we would play in the pool. We'd play these little games, physical games where you jump in the pool and you have to knock the ball out. And I remember we would go to practice and we'd go over there, and I'm like, why are we doing this? And so we did this before practice because by the state rules, you weren't allowed to do practice. But that didn't mean we couldn't hang out with each other. So he would get as many people over on the team as he could. And I go, well, why are you doing this so much? He goes, because the teams that do really well are teams that interact with each other a lot, so you get to know each other's unconscious habits and patterns and tendencies. So in the middle of the game, when everything's going 100 miles an hour, if this guy gets knocked down or hit at this angle, you know what he's going to do next, and then he knows that you're going to know that, and he's going to do it, and you're going to go around the other way knowing that he's going to do that. And believe it or not, but there was a football game where I got the ball, and this one guy reached out and grabbed my jersey, and he started to spin me in circles because he wouldn't let go. And I looked at the offensive lineman. It was Barry, actually. He looked right at me, and I was like, oh, I know exactly what he's going to do. I'm going to swing this guy around, because the guy was actually swinging around me. And I knew that Barry was going to go around the other side and plow into him and knock the daylights out of him. Now, how I know this is I've seen him do this in another game. I've seen him do it in practice, and it was just like it was instantaneous. Like, we knew exactly what to do. Boom. So there's a player named Scott Wright who is the World Series pitcher in the college, Division I college, right? And he was one of our coaches. He went to our high school, Vintage High School in Napa. And in 9th grade, we had a winning team. We took first place, and he came in, and this is when after he just won the championship like 6 months before that or whatever in college. I forget what school he went to. And we're like, wow, this is Scott Wright. And he was also a champion quarterback at our high school. And he goes, you know what? You guys need to make a commitment right here, right now. You guys will be section champions if you do one thing. Commit to this team. He goes, if your parents move away, find a way to move back by yourself, to live with a coach, to live with a friend, live with a cousin, live with a relative. He goes, if you guys can stick together and it's the same team, you will win. And he's right. We did. Both coaches were right, because we got to know each other's unconscious habits and tendencies and what do they do in certain situations. Like, you just know, like in the heat of the moment, ready, set, down, hut one, hut two, hut, and everything's going 100 miles an hour. You know, this guy got chipped on his shoulder. He's going to drop, or he's going to fold, or he's going to go to the right or the left. You know what he's going to do. So as a running back, I know what my offensive line is going to do. Now, throughout your life, you keep hearing parents and teachers and coaches saying, hey, it's really, really important for your kids to get involved in sports because they learn how to interact with people. They learn to develop skill sets. They learn how to understand people. Like, because when you're put on a team, you get all kinds of people from all kinds of walks of life, especially in boxing, kickboxing. You get people like, whoa, that dude's a little off mentally. But you learn how to work with people, and you learn how to function together as a team. That's interdependence. This is why a business fails or a business succeeds. So when I look back on some of my relationships when I was in my 30s, it became really, really obvious. Like, these two people I was in deep loving relationships with were never on any kind of team at all, whether it was an argument debate team, speech team, I don't know, art team. Like you have to function with other human beings. This is just part of life. It's reality. Now, here's the deal. It is not dependence. It's the freedom of dependence. See, you're not truly free until you're free to interact with other human beings. So the word interdependence, it's kind of, I think the word dependence will throw some people like, oh, I don't want to be dependent. You're not dependent at all. You're totally free to come and go as you please. The Maslow's hierarchy of ideas is when you are functioning at the top level, well, you do what you want, when you want, where you want, and how you want, and you make as much money as you want. You travel as much as you want. And if you don't like someone, then you don't deal with them. You don't have to work with them anymore. It's a very freeing, it's the highest level of freedom. Now, I'm not going to go into Maslow's because that's another, but the point being is interdependence is a part of Maslow's higher level of functioning, or hierarchy of ideas. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of avoidance go, no, that sounds like dependence. No, it's not. Where you're at right now is total dependence. You are stuck still and you don't realize it. The worst part about it is you're not getting any benefits out of being there. And you're not truly getting what you want at all. In fact, you want love, but you're not getting love. You want this, but you're not getting that. You're living in this empty space of why am I so stuck? Why can't I go anywhere? It's because you have beliefs that are not true. They were taught to you at a young age. They were embedded throughout your entire life. And now you're the one that's repeating these. Now you've got to go into your true independent stage. See, here's the thing. You're still stuck in the dependent stage, but you don't realize it. You are still following the rules and beliefs and the values that these other people, probably your parents who neglected you, had taught you, whether directly or indirectly through physical punishment or verbal punishment, or just turning their backs on you and neglecting you. You began to believe these things, whether they verbally told you or physically taught you in some way, that are just not true, and they're not benefiting you. They keep you in dependence. And they only attract you to people who keep you at that level. people who don't care about you, people who won't give you a lifting hand, people who just, whatever, they use you. Because you're going, well, that's what I'm used to, and I don't want to open up emotionally, therefore I'm going to deal with other people who aren't open emotionally. So you got two dead people inside who aren't functioning in society very well and who are with each other because, well, we don't open up, we don't learn, we don't grow. It's not even learning or healing. It's about being able to function and grow and go to a higher level, financially, emotionally, spiritually, socially, etc. A truly loving person will just help you. Just because they love you. They don't expect anything in return. They don't want you to do anything. They don't, there's no, what's the word? What is the word I'm looking for? There's no attachment. There's no catch. They do it just because they want to help you, because they think it's the right thing and because they like you. They feel good about you, and I'm going to do this for you for whatever reason. If you're truly an independent person, you would be able to function on that level. But if you're not, you're actually still stuck in dependence. So what I want to emphasize before I move on is you're still dependent on the beliefs and thoughts and the strategies that your parents taught you or whoever it was when you were a young child. You're still functioning on that level, and it's not helping you as a grown adult or as a teenager who's becoming an adult. So the one thing I want to emphasize is when you're on the interdependent level, or as Maslow says, the top of the hierarchy of ideas, you are completely independent. You just have, here's what it means. It's two or more completely independent people who are choosing to interact with each other because, let's take me. I've got a business, so I need to go down to the sign store because I want to have some signs printed up so I can put it outside my building so I can get more customers. That doesn't mean I'm dependent on the printer, that, now I'm subjugated to this printer emotionally and mentally, and now I got to work for them. No, just they say, hey, we'll make this sign for you. We'll be happy to do it, but it's going to cost this much money. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, here you go. That's freedom. Constantly avoiding people, running away from people, that's dependence. That's imprisonment. You're still stuck, and you've been bullshitting yourself this entire time. But a part of that is you probably just didn't understand what interdependence means. It literally means you're free to work with anyone you want. So let's say I want to put an ad in a local paper. I don't have to go to this one paper. There's lots of newspapers. I don't have to advertise on Facebook. I don't have to. I get to pick and choose where I want to go. And I get to either agree with their payment arrangement or not. If they charge too much, they're like, no, sorry, I'm not going to pay that much. And they can adjust and say, well, how about a little bit less? And look, okay, see, this is when you're at the level of freedom. This is what the hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy of ideas was talking about. This was what Stephen Covey was talking about. It's not two dependent people coming together. It's two independent people coming together, say, hey, how can I help you help me? So we can both get what we want freely out of life. See, life was meant to be an enjoyable process. It really, really was. I think a big part of it, though, is you have to learn how to work with other people. And you have to learn how to have your own boundaries and respect other people's boundaries. So this is all a part of the learning curve. I think one of the challenges with avoidance is they don't just have a boundary. They have a brick wall that you can't even function with. That's not boundaries. Healthy boundaries are an interaction between two people that flow back and forth without people trying to control a person. So if someone tries to control you, you just walk away. But that doesn't mean you avoid situations when they're good. And that's the problem with avoidance, is they get into situations that are very, very, very good and healthy, and they run away thinking, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to do this because that's what I learned as a child. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute, you're missing the whole point here. Like, that is where you're supposed to go. Okay, so let's kind of summarize that. So number one, you have a dependent phase. You're supposed to go through that phase and deal with it in a healthy manner, be loved and taken care of and nurtured and fed and protected mentally, emotionally, and physically. Now the problem is, most human beings probably didn't have the best dependent stage. They probably were left out, forgotten, or abused, treated the way avoidant was treated, neglected. So believe it or not, the challenge I'm going to stick with avoidance because I could go all over the place here. The challenge with avoidance is they never truly went through a healthy dependence stage. So on some level, in some way, you're going to have to go through that and finish that. Okay, you're going to have to learn how to allow people to give to you, to take care of you, to be good to you. Now, right now, I can hear an avoidant just freaking out now because it goes against everything that you were brainwashed and taught. So you could do that on your own by nurturing and loving yourself. Now there's a series of techniques that I teach in my courses and in my one-on-one coaching that teaches you how to ground yourself emotionally, how to nurture yourself, how to be with yourself, how to love yourself, etc. So here's the deal with when it comes to avoidance. You tend to overdo it when it comes to the independent thing. It's kind of like, yeah, you've kind of mastered that part. Now you've got to allow people to give to you and do for you. Okay, just because this was one of the biggest things that I was receiving, allowing people to just give to me just because. It was a really weird experience for me to learn how to open up and someone would just give me money. I'm like, well, why are you doing this? Or just buy me, take me out to dinner. I'm like, well, why? It was hard for me to do. So this is another level of becoming, of healing that level of dependence, which I believe most avoidants never truly went through their dependent stage where they allowed anyone to help them, to give to them, to just be good to them for the sake of just being good to them without any expectation in return. And I think if you're an avoidant right now, I wouldn't doubt if this is a really weird concept for you. Now, I had a therapist, coach, healer years ago who was really, really on the independent stage. Well, here's the thing. I'd already transferred up to the InterDependence stage by the time I'd met this person. She goes, no, Michael, you've got to be alone, which that one phase of being alone for a couple of years was actually, that 1 year ended up being, I think, 4 years or 5 years. I think before I dated at all, because I just enjoyed it so much. Like, wow, I could come and go as I please, do what I want. So once you have that solid, that protects you from dealing with narcissist abuse, because you're like, yeah, I don't need you. The reason why you get stuck with narcissists is because you need people emotionally, and that is not a healthy thing. Okay, it should be two people coming together freely, enjoying each other's feelings and emotions and love. Now here I'd been playing sports since I was a little kid. I mean, I started competing in sports when I was like 4 years old, martial arts and BMX racing. And of course I went to school, you interact with other children. I went to church every Sunday, and then I was in the Boy Scout or the Cub Scouts, then the Boy Scouts. I played Little League or minor league and then the majors. Then I got into Babe Ruth, and I was on the boxing team, football team, racing team, wrestling team. I mean, I was always, and I was in martial arts classes, always constantly interacting with people. So this develops your ability to create and develop interdependence with others, okay? So the challenge was I started working with someone, and she kept emphasizing, no, you got to be alone, you got to be independent, you can't. And I realized years later that was actually pushing me down a step, whereas I was already at this other level, and this person couldn't see it because they weren't at that level. So it could have been an avoidant who became a therapist, and it's kind of like those people, like it's all about independence, all about, and like no matter what you're like, what do you mean? See, one thing I began to realize is becoming a solo entrepreneur, something changed. Like I didn't function as well. I couldn't understand like what's going on with me, and I began to realize like I work really well in groups of people and teams, which guess what? That's normal. That's human nature. So if you're a solo entrepreneur, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to physically pay a manager and get an office to, be in the same space. It could be hiring, and having two like workers work for you right there in the office with you. It could be hiring people online, interacting over the phone, interacting through email, text messages. So that can create a team-like environment. So the only key, though, you have to make sure they're really on the same page. They really want to see you succeed, and they're really doing their job that they're supposed to be doing, and they're good at it. But the point being is you can begin to build that team-like mentality where you'll function on that higher level. Now, here's the deal when it comes to avoidance. You are going to need some kind of healing work done. It's not going to be... okay, watch this, though. I honestly believe by just understanding the dependence phase, the independence phase, and then the interdependent phase. Once you understand, see, when I heard about the interdependent phase, I was like, oh, like it's just like, oh, I didn't know that. I thought I had to be all alone, and so then I started understanding, like, wow. And luckily, because I've been so involved in all these groups and teams and choir and Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, baseball, I'd already developed these skills simply by doing this stuff my entire life. Even working at a job, you're learning how to interact with other people. Dating and relationships are a great way to develop this skill. In fact, that's why they're called relationships. You're relating to other people. You're developing compassion. You're developing how to understand another person's communication. You're developing how to work together. So you don't necessarily have to join a baseball team or something like that, but you do have to learn how to interact with people by interacting with people instead of constantly running away when, hey, the door just opened up and I'm feeling a little bit close to this person. Oh shit, close the door, run, because that's not independent. That's not independence. You're right. You're going to a higher level. It's interdependence, which is going to get you more reward, more money, more freedom, more everything that you want of life, even more, God forbid, love. Oh, there's the avoid. Oh, I'm out of here. I don't want to hear that love stuff, Mike. All right, so I'm giving you a little bit of a hard time, but in a very loving way. Oh, Mike, you got to stop with the love and personal stuff. I can't do it. No, I'm just kidding. So you need to be able to be open to taking it to the next level. And if you truly are an avoidant, and probably the average person, an empath, etc., you're going to need some healing work. You're going to need some coaching. This is everything that I've been training for the last 30 years of my life. I trained directly in NLP for 12 years without taking a break, going to seminar after seminar, training after training. I went to college, studied psychology. I mean, I've done a lot of work, and it just happens to apply to these areas in life. If you're ready to heal, you're going to be surprised, happily surprised, that there are direct tools that can help you with your parts integration, with your internal conflicts, like where you have one belief, but then you have a belief that's the opposite, and they conflict and collide, and they keep you stuck. And same thing with values conflicts. There's a lot of tools that we have, parts integration, values integration, belief integration, etc., that will absolutely help you. Then there's the timeline therapy. There's the emotional healing techniques, and on, including the emotional grounding techniques, how to connect with yourself, how to be at one with yourself, how to work with yourself to move forward in life so you can begin to be happy and thrive. I'd recommend buying that book, Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and truly learning more about these levels of dependence, independence, and interdependence. Just for me alone, when I learned about what interdependence was, that was a life-freeing experience. Like, understanding that changed everything. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, go ahead and make a comment, and if you want, you can always go ahead and leave a, not subscription, you can leave a donation. I have a PayPal link right there in the description box. Alright, God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. P.S. Avoidance. Now you finally have a channel that's dedicated to you so you can start to heal. Alright guys.